As you might have noticed, China has recently enjoyed somewhat of a PR comeback. Polling reliably shows that global opinion towards China has improved steadily over the past couple of years, rising markedly from the lows we saw during the pandemic, when Chinese officials spent much of their time practicing wolf warrior diplomacy on Twitter. What's more striking, however, is that it's consistently young people who are less negative about China than their older counterparts. So in this video, we thought we'd take a look on how Gen Z's opinion of China differs from older generations across the globe, and try our best to explain why young people are apparently more pro-China. The TLDR Black Friday sale is now on. That includes our biggest ever discounts on all products, including our coffee table book, our 2025 calendars, our colouring book, posters starting at $17.99, and much more. Find the full collection at toolong.news or by clicking the link in the description. Offer ends December 3rd. So let's start by looking at the polling. A recent GlobeScan poll surveyed 32,000 respondents from across 32 countries, and it found in every single country, including the US, preference for China as the world's leading power has risen, while support for America has slipped. But perhaps more notably, the younger the respondents, the more likely they were to welcome Chinese leadership. In other words, while views of China have become slightly more positive across the globe in recent years, this shift has been particularly marked among those below the age of 24. As we can see, among 18 to 24-year-olds globally, support for China versus the US is nearly tied at 39% and 41% respectively, while in every other age cohort, the US has maintained a clear lead. Another 2025 poll by Pew Research backs this up, showing that younger people generally view China more positively than their older counterparts. For example, in the UK, 56% of those aged 18 to 34 had a favourable view of China, compared to just 28% of those aged 50 plus. Even in countries where opinion towards China is generally pretty negative, like Japan and the US, this trend still holds up, and young people are more positive than older generations. What's behind all of this, though? Why do young people seem to be more open to China than older people? Well, we see at least 5 potential reasons that might explain this tendency. The first is that young people just really don't like Trump. As we've detailed in previous videos, young people are more disapproving of Trump than any other generation. While more Gen Z backed Trump in his 2024 presidential campaign than in previous runs, according to a YouGov poll taken in October, support for Trump among young Americans has reached an all-time low, with his net approval rating falling to below -50, down from basically evens at the start of his term. In other words, while Trump's net approval has declined in all age groups since the start of his term, no age group has registered as big a drop as adults under 30. It's at least possible that young Americans' disillusionment with Trump has translated to greater support for China, at least when it comes to which superpower young people would prefer to lead the world. The second reason is a related but broader phenomenon, a generational decline in democratic faith. A 2020 report from the Center for the Future of Democracy, for instance, shows that young people across the globe have less faith in democratic politics than any other age group. This isn't just in absolute terms, but also relative to older cohorts at comparable stages in life. Similarly, this year's youth study revealed that fewer than 6 in 10 young Europeans believe that democracy is the best form of government. There are lots of reasons that young people, especially in the West, might be skeptical of democracy. Western democracies have struggled since really 2008, but falling birth rates have also put young people at a structural disadvantage in democracies. Because there are less of them, they can be and often are outvoted by older generations. Unsurprisingly, this has made young people more open to authoritarian forms of government, like in China. In fact, just early this year, a YouGov poll revealed that more than 1 in 5 Gen Z Europeans, 21%, would favour an authoritarian rule under certain unspecified circumstances, while another poll by Adam Smith Insights revealed that somewhat astonishingly, a third of British 18 to 30-year-olds would prefer an authoritarian system over democracy. This leads us to our third point. Young people tend to be less afraid of communism. A 2025 report by Onward and Merlin Strategy found that positive views of communism are significantly higher among younger Brits than older generations. As a survey shows, the likelihood of someone reporting a positive view of communism drops sharply with age. Nearly a third of British people aged 18 to 24 say that they view communism either very or fairly positively, while only 3% of those in the 55 to 64 age bracket say the same. This isn't just a British phenomenon either. A 2020 YouGov poll revealed that younger Americans also view communism far more favourably than their older counterparts. This would partly explain why younger people are apparently less wary of China, which obviously is run by the Chinese Communist Party. The fourth potential reason is climate change. Unsurprisingly, given that they're more likely to be affected by it, young people are more concerned than older cohorts about climate change. YouGov polling consistently finds that young Brits are more likely than old Brits to cite the environment as one of the top issues facing the country, while Pew polling from earlier this year found that young people in developed countries are more willing to make lifestyle changes to curb the effects of climate change. While China is still the world's largest emitter, the Chinese leadership at least takes the issue of climate change seriously. The CCP have committed to peaking Chinese emissions before 2030 and achieving carbon neutrality by 2060, and Chinese industry is proving to be the backbone of the energy transition. China already accounts for something like 90% of solar panel manufacturing and is expected to generate 60% of the world's energy by 2028. Conversely, the Trump administration seems pretty skeptical of climate change and has implemented policies to revive America's oil and gas industries as part of Trump's campaign promise to, quote, drill baby drill. At the same time, Trump has taken steps to undermine America's domestic renewables industry, including withdrawing many of the climate subsidies introduced by Biden's Inflation Reduction Act. The fifth and final potential reason is that China's limited cultural exports are generally directed more at younger people than older. The most obvious example is TikTok, which obviously is used more by Gen Z than any other generation. In 2023, a Social Sphere poll found that 66% of Gen Z Americans had a favourable view of TikTok, compared to only 46% of millennials who felt the same, as well as them generally being far less concerned about Chinese misuse of the platform. Other Chinese platforms popular with young people include Temu and Shein, and more recently, Labubu dolls, made by Chinese toy maker Pop Mart, and especially popular with young people, have been interpreted by at least some commentators as a symptom of China's growing soft power. Obviously, this isn't hard data, but it seems plausible that more cultural exchange might make young people less anti-China. So there you have it, 5 reasons why young people are generally more open to China than older generations. Again, this isn't intended as a complete explanation, so if there are any other reasons we can think of, or things we might have missed, then please let us know in the comments. And if you're interested in the growing influence that China yields, then we have a whole segment on it in our magazine Too Long, where we unpack if we're already living through the Chinese century. Plus, this Black Friday, we're running our cheapest price ever, with new subscribers getting their first copy as cheap as $2.99. As you can see, the magazine is titled The New Middle East, and in it we run through each country in the region and discuss their future, before reflecting on how recent events reshaped the Middle East forever. We obviously talk about the Middle East a lot in videos, but this is our most zoomed out, detailed and thought through coverage yet, truly outlining how we see this region re-emerging. It's not just that though, there have also been a lot of major elections this year. So in this issue, we have a whole section talking about all of the major elections that have taken place this year, and how global politics has changed. China's continued dominance, politics in the UK, and how politicians have hijacked social media. This latest issue is now available for pre-order on our website, and if you subscribe using the code BLACKFRIDAY at checkout, then you'll get £5 off your first copy, bringing the price down to as low as $2.99. Plus, there's also special subscriber bundles, including our other TLDR products, which offer even greater value. Anyway, click the link in the description for all of the offers, and thank you for supporting the channel.